Okay, so today we are going to do this lesson here. Assignment lesson, June 4th, solving quadratic equations with the B term by factoring. So this is day 4 of solving quadratic equations. So make sure you do this. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some review questions. These kind of questions we already did in the past, and it was in our last quiz. So go ahead and try questions 1 through, let's see, 1 through 6. Okay, so questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 through 5, I should say, are review questions. So please try these questions first and then come back and watch a video and I'll show you the solution. Okay, so when you get a question like this and you're solving for x and it's equal to 0, then this needs to be the opposite of plus 5, so this would be negative 5. And if you put it on your calculator, negative 5 plus 5 would equal 0. So this one's negative 5. Okay? Over here, when you have two parentheses, either this equals 0 or this equals 0, because 0 times anything is 0. So if we're solving for x. So just like up here, we can make this 0 by going negative 7, the opposite of positive 7, and this by going positive 16. So there's two solutions. That's why it says, why there's two over here. So the smaller is negative, right? Negative 7 and 16 is the big one. Okay, now try this one here and then come back for the solution. Okay, if you have one like this, you need to get the x squared by itself. So we're going to subtract 76 from both sides. And when we do, we're going to get x squared. This goes bye-bye. This becomes 100. And then on your calculator, you go like this. And you get x is equal to 10 and negative 10. Okay, so the smaller is negative 10, the bigger is 10. Okay, so try number 5 and then come back and check the solution. Okay, so when here is not different, we are not solving for 0. On the previous one, this said solve for x, right? On number 3 and 4, but that's not what we're doing here. Here we're going to set the equation equal to 0, the whole equation. Right now the equation equals 5, right? So we want it to equal 0, right? So we want basically this to be 0. So how do we accomplish that? Well, that's positive 5, so we go minus 5. But we have to do the same thing to this side as well, right? So this becomes x, and then 10 minus 5 is plus 5, and that equals 0. Okay, so that's how you do it. X plus 5 equals 0. Okay, now this is very important because that's how you're going to solve quadratic equations today, is by that principle right there. Here, okay, what I want you to do is open up the assignment and download this form right here. Open this document, and it's very important that you do that and translate it in your language. Okay, so what you're going to get is this one. So please make sure right now to read this before you can pause the video, and make sure to read this part right here first and translate it. Okay, so what it says is we can solve equations like this, like we did earlier up here. We can solve it. We subtract 76 from both sides, get x squared, and then take the square root. That's no problem. But when the hold on one moment. But when the equations look like this, when we have an x squared and we have the b term, remember, this is the standard form of a quadratic equation. There's an x squared term, right? That's like this right here and this. It's got the square, right? But there's also a bx term sometimes. Now this one doesn't have one. So here the b would actually be 0. So there's no b, right? But this one has it, right? So this b right here is 13, is the b, okay? It also has the c term. This has the c term. So when you have something that has both an a term and a b term, then you cannot solve it like this one. You have to do a different process. So that's what we're going to learn today, is this, the steps of solving quadratic equations by factoring. And so I will show you an example, and then we'll put it here. But let's look at what we have in the assignment. Okay, so again, we have an equation like this. We cannot move this over there and the 30 over there because we would have an x squared over here and we would have an x over there. And you can't have something like this. You can't go like that because this needs to be a number, but that's not a number when you have a b of 13x, okay? So what we're going to do is the first step is we set it equal to 0, right? So where do my steps go? Step number 1, we're going to set it equal to 0 and put it in standard form, okay? Well, on the first example I give you, it already is equal to 0, right? And it's also in standard form, the x squared, the x. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do what we did before, right? We're going to do the same process like before, okay? We're going to go like this, equal to 0. And let me get rid of this. And we're going to make a table, right? Let me make this a little bit bigger. Oops. So we're going to make a table. So we want two numbers. Remember, that equals c. So we want two numbers. So 30 times 1. And then this is when we multiply. And then we're going to add and we're going to subtract. Okay. So we're going to add them up. 30. So you know this process. This is a review. 31. 30 minus 1, 29. So we're looking for 13, positive 13, right? So we keep going. So we try 2 and 15. 15 plus 2 is 17. 15 minus 2 is 13. So maybe 13 looks good, right? So that would be x and over here, right? And then we could do 15 and 2. But this is minus. So which one's minus? Well, this is a positive 13, so we could go plus and minus, right? But here's the problem. Here's the problem. If we go 15 multiply times negative 2, that equals negative 30. But we need positive 30, right? So that's a problem. This does not work. Sorry. So now we're going to keep going. We're going to go 5 times 6 is 11 and 1. And then, oh, actually, you know what? I missed something. Make sure you go, sorry. And then we go 3, yes, times 10. So that's going to be 13, and it's going to be 7. Oh, but now we have 13, and it's plus, right? So now I'm going to come over here and try this again. Okay, go here. So now we're going to do 10 and 3. So 10 and 3. Okay, so there we go. So you add these together. 10 plus 3 equals 13. Yes. And 10 times 3 multiplication is positive 30. Yes. So those are the number. Now here's what's really important difference. Okay, so this is what's different. We need to use the zero product rule to solve for values of x that make the equation equal to 0. I'm going to put that here. That make the equation equal to 0. This is very important. Okay, so before we said, hey, our answers are 10 and 3, but what we need is the equation to be equal to 0. So we need either this to be equal to 0 or this to equal to 0. So what makes this one 0? This is plus 10, so this needs to be minus 10. And this is plus 3, so this needs to be minus 3, okay? So that means the smaller is this one, negative 10, and the bigger is negative 3. So that's what's different about this. We're trying to get the equation equal to 0. Before, when we said, hey, before the answers were 10 and 3. Now the answers are negative 10 and negative 3 because we want the equation to be equal to 0. Okay? All right, so make sure you take good notes, and that is the solution. Now let's look at questions 8 and 9 when we get an equation like this. Okay, so remember, step 1 is we need the equation to be equal to 0 and put it in standard form, okay? So we're going to go back to what we did before. So right now, this is equal to 18, right? This is equal to 18, right? So we need to make it equal to 0, right? We want it equal to 0. So this is positive 18, so we have to minus 18. and we have to minus it from the 54, okay? So that means this is 0 now. 54 minus 18 is what? That is 36, right? And then this is the same, okay? And now we can factor this equation down, okay? So now we can take this equation and factor it down, set it equal to 0 like we did above in this problem. So I'm going to let you try this, make a table, and see if you can get the numbers that multiply to 36 and add to 15, and then come back and check. Okay, so hopefully you did your table and you got this numbers here. So I see that 12 and 3, they add up to the positive 15, positive 15. So these are our numbers. So x plus 12 plus 3, right? This is 12. And then remember, we need this to equal 0, right? And we need this to equal 0. So that means this has got to be negative 12, and this has got to be negative 3, okay? So the smaller is negative 12, and this one is negative 3. And remember, we can put this number back into the equation right here. So let's try it. So let's take this one over here. We go, it's the x squared. If this is the correct answer, let's see. Let's try it. Negative 3 squared plus 15 times negative 3 plus 54. Is that equal to 18? Okay, try it on your calculator. Try it on your calculator, and if you do, it would be 18. So that's how you can check your answer, right? Check it to make sure it's correct. Okay, so let's take this example that we just did and see how it applies. So these are the steps you want to go through. Make sure you have in your notes. But step number 1, you set the equation equal to 0. So we had this, we subtracted 18 from both sides, and we got this equation. Step number 2, we took this, we factored it with the table, and we got that. And finally, we asked ourselves what values of x would make this parenthesis equal to 0, negative 12, and this one, negative 3. Okay, let's do one more problem together, and then you can do the practice problems. Okay, step number 1, we need the equation to be equal to 0, right? Well, here we have two things. We have the 20 and the negative 17. So let's do one thing at a time. Maybe first we move the 17x. We're going to do plus 17x to both sides, plus 17x. Now this doesn't combine with anything, so we're going to get x squared plus 17x plus 62 equals, and this goes bye-bye, 20, right? But now we still have the 20, so we need to go minus 20, okay, so that we get the 0, good. X squared plus 17x plus 42, okay? And now you can make a table, so I'll let you make the table and see if you can find the solutions here. Okay, so here's my table, so I was able to get remember, this is the equation one. Now, this is our b right here, 17x. So I've got 17, so that means 14 and 3 are the numbers. So x plus 14, x plus 3 equals 0 is the factored equation. And what makes this equal to 0 is negative 14, negative 3, so negative 14 and negative 3. So that's how you factor quadratic equations. You set them, again, remember, you set them equal to set equal to 0, and then factor, and then use the zero product rule, and that is how you solve quadratic equations. So now you're ready to do the practice questions, and when you finish, make sure you put them into Canvas.